I want anybody in the future who's diving into this course to be able to find what I couldn't find when I was initially looking to sign up for the course. And that is just a comprehensive overview of what exactly it is you're going to be investing in. When I signed up for Sports Management Worldwide's football GM and scouting course, one of the things I told myself that I really wanted to do was make sure that I was documenting my experiences and giving my honest opinion and reviews of the course for anybody that was interested in taking it in the future. And the reason I wanted to do this is because when I was researching it and when I was looking into the course, I couldn't find anything outside of Sports Management Worldwide's own releases, own website, own YouTube, testimonials from their website. I couldn't find much from any users who had actually been through the course and provided anything comprehensive. So when you search the deep, dark corners of the internet, sure, you find a little conversation here and a little conversation there, but nothing that was enough to make me say, I'm gonna do it or I'm not gonna do it. It's a good idea or it's not. I just decided to push forward and do it anyway. And I'm gonna start by saying I'm glad I did. No regrets. So far, the course has been amazing. There are 24 of us in the course right now, and there's a lot of teamwork. There's a lot of group discussion. So we have a few chats every week. Get on these Zoom calls Tuesday evenings at 10 o'clock my time, 9 o'clock Eastern, 6 o'clock Pacific. We get on a chat with Russ Lande. We call him Russ. He has over 2 decades of experience. And when you sit here and talk to him and you listen to the things he says, you can tell he has this experience. This isn't just somebody who's been sitting around for 2 decades collecting paychecks. This dude is a wealth of information. So I do my best, and we do our best to get as much of that information as we can. When you sign up for the course, you look through some of the information. It lets you know that you're going to upload your scouting report, because we do a scouting report every week on different positions. So you're supposed to upload each of those throughout the course to the actual assignment page, if you will. And at the end, this is the information anyway, when you're reading it, it says you're going to send your best one to Russ, the best of all your scouting reports you'll send to Russ. So I was looking forward to that. Great, yes, this guy's going to actually review one of my scouting reports. I can't believe it. Then we get in our first Tuesday chat with Russ, and he's like, yo, this is my email address, this is my phone number, hit me up anytime. You can call me, but you probably want to send me a text because I'm usually busy. Makes sense, most of us are. And by the way, if you want to send me a scouting report every week, go ahead and do so. I'll give you some feedback. And I kid you not, so far we've done 2 scouting reports. I've emailed both of them to Russ, and I felt good about these scouting reports because this is something I've been practicing doing anyway. I've been looking at different information on the internet, so I was able to build a pretty good report when I scout different positions. I sent it to Russ, and the feedback he gives, it's you're not going to get it from somebody who doesn't have the experience he has. And it seems so simple, but you go ahead, it makes you rewatch the tape because you're looking for some of the things he's talking about. And then you plug that into your scouting report, you fix it up a little bit, do a revision, and this scouting report is night and day. I thought it was a good report. Remember this, both of these reports I thought were good. I added the couple changes that Ross mentioned, and it's just like unbelievable. I feel like I'm reading somebody else's scouting report. So I'm really looking forward to the continued, and I've been uploading my revised scouting reports, of course, and even sending them back to Ross and saying, hey, listen, I took your advice, I made these changes. And then we get in the chat and we're able to talk about those things that we discussed via email throughout the week. We're able to ask other questions. Sometimes it's course related, but every now and again somebody wants to talk about what's going on with their favorite football team, whether it's college, whether it's pro, whether it's Canadian league, you name it. He's going to discuss it all with you. And one of the real cool things, if you're into storytelling, dude, some of the information that these guys have, some of the stories that they have about their dealings with different personnel in the league, whether it's coaching staff, scouting staff, managers, players, they're able to tell you some things. Oh, you just mentioned a player's name when you're telling a story. You say, oh, by the way, when he was a recruit, this and this happened, or and certain things I'm not going to repeat because I didn't get the information firsthand, of course, but he has given us so much valuable information. My plan is at the end of it all, because they actually record all of those chats. So at the end of it all, I'm going to take all of those chats and edit them so that they're all one big video this wealth of information. I'll have chapters on it. Of course, I can't upload that because that's something that Sports Management Worldwide is charging us money for. But for my own personal database, and if you should ever take the course, think about it as well. You don't have to, because you will have all the courses regardless. You will have all of those videos regardless. I just want to make it this way for myself so I can have some of those hot points right off the rip. Anytime I'm doing a scouting report, I can say, yo, I could bring up that video. I know I could go to this chapter for quarterback conversation, that chapter for defensive back conversation, so on and so forth. And now the cool thing though is on the Wednesday, immediately after that Tuesday chat, you get to work, you start banging out your scouting report. Well, you really start doing the scouting report before Tuesday, mind you, but you start applying some of the things you discussed with Russ. And then while you're doing it, for me anyway, I'm listening to the recording because the recording comes out first thing in the morning. So I'm listening to the recording while I'm doing my scouting report, and then that's reminding you some of the things you discussed, and you say, oh yeah, let me remember that, let me take that note. And then something pops up and you say, oh man, I didn't really catch that during the live, or I remember when that happened during the live, but because everybody's trying to get questions in and it's already about a 2-hour conversation, you don't fire off everything you want to say, right? So the Wednesday chat, you're now with a gentleman named Dane Vandernat and John Wooten, the godfather of football. Talk about stories. Dude, John Wooten is like everybody's grandfather. They call him the godfather of football, but he's like your grandfather. You could just sit down and listen to him tell stories about football and never get bored. Dane is a wealth of information. He's amazing as well. Been in the industry for a long time. And the two of them, they now have a little bit more of a relaxed conversation because we already discussed the topic, if you will, the night before. They'll go through, they'll see if we have any questions, whether it's directly from the material, whether it's something pertaining to the conversation last night. Somebody like me, when I go back and listen to the recordings, like I said, a lot of times I say, oh yeah, this is something I can ask tomorrow. This is something I didn't even catch last night. So a lot of times you bring that back up in that Wednesday conversation. But then Dane will do the exact same thing. So if we're talking about quarterbacks, Russ would have gone through his quarterback checklist the night before and what these things mean and specific things to look for. Dane does the same thing, and his perspective is going to be very similar in the sense that you're looking for any relevant context, of course, and critical factors, and then position specific things. So they're both going to be similar in that regard, but you're two entirely different people. So he is going to have different perspectives. He's going to provide different things that he might think is important to him. Just in that moment, it may be something that maybe Russ didn't mention that is important to Russ, but as he's giving you his spiel, it doesn't come up. So you have these two persons who've been in the industry for so long, and both of them are so open. Dane did the same thing as Russ. Here's my phone number. Here's my email address. Hit me up anytime. So the access is amazing. On Sundays, you have a chat with Dr. Lynn, Lashbrook, and all three of these chats are recorded and sent to your email immediately after. They have a great process. You can see it churns, it's smooth as butter. And the chat on Sundays with Dr. Lynn Lashbrook now, and I call him Dr. LL Cool J. He knows this. I say it to him because I think he is one of the most positive people I've ever met. He gets questions from everybody, from all over the place. And he always has a positive spin on things. And most of the time, he's telling you, you're amazing. Nobody has the same experiences as you or the same access as you. Somebody in a different city somewhere else has better access in that city than you have and different experiences than you have. But right where you are, nobody has those same experiences and that same access. And then he builds on it with some specific things that, again, he charges people and they charge people to gain access to. So I won't get into the specifics. But it's awesome. And that chat with Dr. Lynn Lashbrook now, that's open to everybody from every course, whether you're actively in the course, you finished your course 4, 5, 6 years ago, or you haven't even started your course. The first time I joined one of those chats with Dr. Lynn Lashbrook was 2 months before my course even started. As soon as I signed up, I gained access. So I said, let's check it out, and you have this conversation, and it's cool because in our weekly chats, as far as the course related chats, the Tuesday night chat, the Wednesday night chat, both of those are the same time. So that's 10 o'clock in Bermuda. And the chat with Dr. Lynn Lashbrook now is 12 o'clock on a Sunday. So that typically wraps up right before kickoff. But so in those chats with Dr. Lynn Lashbrook, it's different because it's not just the football GM and scouting, right? So you're able to listen to people who are in the basketball course, people who are in the football course, what I call football, what you call soccer, people who are in one of those courses, baseball. There was a gentleman in the first course that I did who is doing work in ball hockey. And when I said I was from Bermuda, he got excited. He's a Canadian gentleman, but he had lived in Bermuda for some 10 or 15 years. And he happened to be coming to the island about 6 weeks after the day of that meeting. And they were having a ball hockey tournament. So we met up. My kids and I, after my son's drum recital one day, decided to go around and check out some of the ball hockey because we were in the neighborhood. So we met up, and it's cool. So you're doing all of this networking. And what's really awesome about that Sunday chat, though, to get back on point, because I definitely got a little bit off track. The cool thing about that Sunday meeting and having all those persons from different courses is you're still learning different things. There was a gentleman in the chat on Sunday who was doing the NIL course. And I think I have asked a different question in our Tuesday and Wednesday chats about NIL and how it relates to CBA or how it relates to other things, because it's so relevant. So now this guy's doing the NIL course. So I'm talking to Dr. Lynn Lashbrook, but I'm also saying to the gentleman who's doing the NIL, hey, if you have anything to add. And so he's able to give me things from his perspective. And it's just so enriching. So when I can, I'm going to jump in those chats for the foreseeable future. I don't see any reason why not. And you listen to these things and it's just this great wealth of information. But now I'm going to go a little bit behind the scenes. I'm not going to go into anything, again, that is paid for. But I'm going to just take a look at the website. And this isn't the website you go to sign up on. This is the student portal. So you're going to have your student portal. And it looks like this. So when you first sign in, it's called the e-arena. And the e-arena gives you this welcome. And this tutorial shows you how to use the e-arena, how to navigate and things like that, right? So that's cool. And you'll have a whole bunch of stuff down below. Now where you typically want to start is, for me anyway, course, because there's a lot of things up here. So you can go directly to your weekly chats. You can go to your resources library. You can go to job links. They have links to jobs and all those things. So it's really awesome. You can go to my courses. Some people are in more than one course. So, or you might even have a history of courses. You can find them all there. But I would jump into course home on a regular basis. And it tells you how you're doing for the week. So I'm currently in week 3. I need to complete 1 discussion board and 2 discussion board responses and attend the weekly chat. The weekly chat, or the Tuesday's weekly chat this week actually happened on Monday. And this is Wednesday as I'm recording. So we'll be speaking with Dane, Vandernat, and John Wooten this evening. So those things are going to take place. And then this tells you your course requirements. So it shows you everything you've done so far, everything you need to do. These donuts and percentages are great. And they update right away. So you go to a weekly discussion, it pops one in there and shows you what you've done. It'll show you only as many as you're allowed to do per week. And what I mean is, it says weekly discussion board responses, and it shows 4 out of 16. So I have to do 16 for the whole period, but you have to do 2 every week. I've probably already done 16 total, but it's only counting the 2 I did in week 1 and the 2 I did in week 2, which makes sense because you're going to go do all 16 of your discussion boards right now, and then you're not going to participate for the rest of the course, right? So it wants to make sure you're doing everything you're supposed to be doing in that regard. Informational interviews, final paper, resume. They have a team that will redo your resume for you to include this course and dress it up nicely the way that they want to see it in the industry. So that's really awesome. And then you come down here, your syllabus. You can click on your syllabus. It'll tell you everything that needs to be done. Your weekly assignments. This is awesome because you click on your weekly assignments. I believe we can look at this without exposing anything. And you'll see there's a link to week 1, and it'll tell you what the topic of week 1 is. These things, when you go to Sports Management Worldwide's website, you'll see. Obviously, you won't have these links, so I'm okay showing you this. So week 1 is your introduction to SMWW and football. It also includes a scouting report. You start getting a little bit into the front office and learning different things about how front offices are constructed. You do a little research on the front office of the team that you choose. Of course, I'm rocking the Dallas Cowboys. Why would I not? So I am doing the Dallas Cowboys front office. I did a piece on Will McClay and Terry Gray. You're going to dive into the front office, the structure of a front office, and then after you have that chat, because of course on the Tuesday you have the chat about what front offices are built like. We're going to show you behind the scenes. You now go get to do some research on your team of choice. Again, my team of choice was the Dallas Cowboys. And you do a scouting report that first week as well. Week 2, you're diving into the NFLPA and the CBA, which is absolutely awesome. This conversation is one that I couldn't get enough of. I'm reading through the CBA and finding all little bits and pieces of information. This, of course, sparked a lot of questions about NIL and the CBA. How does that change things? How does it look at the end of the decade, right? Because at the end of the decade, 2030, the CBA is up. So what ends up happening? How does NIL affect the new CBA? Hey, what's going on with the NCAA? When, where, and how are they going to incorporate a CBA? Right, all sorts of things. Unbelievable conversation. I listen to these recordings of our meetings probably until the next meeting. I'll just play it on repeat. Week 3, we're in the middle of week 3 right now. Scouting offensive skill positions. I am doing a scouting report on Ryan Flournoy. So it was suggested, and it makes perfect sense, not to do scouting reports on the star players. There's no reason me breaking down CeeDee Lamb's game. It's easy because he's good at just about everything, right? So you want to look at some of the down roster guys, your third wide receiver, fourth and fifth wide receiver. What are their contributions on special teams? Because what happens is when you approach free agency, and this is what happens with the pro scouts, and this is part of the conversation. Pro scouts are, let's say, underestimated or under talked about, undervalued outside of their own teams, that is, right? In the team, the pro scout's huge. But when we talk about scouts in the media and in general amongst fans, we just think about college players. Oh yeah, the draft, right? Because the draft is a big spectacle. But the pro scout is important because he needs to know what's going on with the coaching staff. He needs to know what they're looking for in players. He needs to know how our players who are coming up on free agency compare to the free agents that are about to be available. The waiver wire. They need to keep an eye on all these things. So the GM might come to you one day and say, hey, Ryan Flournoy's contract's about to end, or Kevontae Turpin's contract's about to end, and we got somebody over there in Miami who looks like he could be a better value. What can you tell me about it? So they don't want you to tell them about Tyreek Hill. They want you to tell them about one of the bottom roster wide receivers, and you need to be able to say, okay, this guy can contribute on special teams, because if he's a fourth or fifth wide receiver, he's going to need to contribute on special teams. He fits the scheme or he doesn't. And this is why he's a better fit than Kevontae or Ryan Flournoy or Jalen Tolbert or whoever, right? So scouting the Ryan Flournoys of the world is much better work. That said, one of the things that was advised in one of the chats was make sure you do know what you are comparing these players to. You have to know what the bar is. So for those of us that want to scout college players, and I did do a college quarterback, I did Sam Levitt. But for those of us who want to scout college players, you need to know what a pro quarterback looks like. You need to know what a pro wide receiver looks like. So what I've decided to do is I'm actually doing multiple scouting reports each week. And this was based off of some of Russ Lande's feedback, because he had mentioned, yo, keep it up. You're doing great. By the time you get to 50 to 75 scouting reports, it's really going to start to flow. So I said, all right, well, for one, I want to get that body count up faster than one per week. And the other thing is, if I look at a range of players at a position, I look at guys who are at the top of the league, round about the middle of the league, and then maybe guys who are undrafted free agents fighting to make a way. You can start to see now where the median is, what makes you, like, if I'm talking about your athletic ability, if I'm only looking at one wide receiver and I've never really studied another wide receiver, how can I say your athletic ability should be graded anything out of anything if I don't have anything to compare it to, right? So the staff, they provide a bunch of scouting reports, and they actually tell you, read these scouting reports. So if it's week 3 right now and you're doing wide receivers, pick 5 wide receivers with a range of abilities, read those to get a feel for how we talk about these players, how we talk about these abilities, and how we talk about how it relates to the football field. So I took that a step further and just said, I'm going to just watch film on 5 players as well as reading these 5 scouting reports. So it really starts to give you enough perspective. So now I can look at Ryan Flournoy's film and I can actually say, okay, this is what I think of his hands. This is what I think of his route running. This is how they think of him as a blocking wide receiver, or how his release looks versus the jam or versus off coverage. I'm able to say it better now because I've seen others do it. And I've seen others do it who might be considered better wide receivers than him, some who might be considered in the same area he is, and some that might be considered not quite as good as he is. And once you do all of those things, you now start watching the college film and you're able to say, okay, I can see where this guy fits. I can see what his potential is. Now, some of the things we're not going to be able to do. So I can look at a college wide receiver and say, okay, I see all the potential. I see what he's probably going to be able to do. But I'm not in that building to know what his character is, how coachable he is. And one of the things that we were warned very, very, very heavily about was don't judge any of their character. You can do football intelligence. You can write about football intelligence based off things you see on film, but we don't want to get into the character conversation unless we have spoken to somebody in that building or we have somebody that we trust in that building, because the media runs with stuff and they get a lot of things wrong. So the last thing I want to do is run with a narrative about a kid, especially if it's giving them a bad name when it's not even the truth, right? You can see week 4 through 8 laid out in a similar fashion. I won't get as deep into those in this video because we haven't gotten into them yet, and there may be other things that come up. So thank you for tuning in. Thank you for checking this out. I'm going to give you as many updates about SMWW as I can because, like I said, I want anybody in the future who's diving into this course to be able to find what I couldn't find when I was initially looking to sign up for the course, and that is just a comprehensive overview of what exactly it is you're going to be investing in.